Yo, 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 yo. What is happening? What is up? Welcome to another podcast of the Second Firstborn podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Williams, the Stephen Williams. And of course, as always, I am accompanied by my co host.
Cora.
You caught the alley oop that time. I'm so proud of you. We're making strides, leaps and bounds, everybody. Um, so today we're gonna do things a little different. Today my co-host, the lovely Cora Gia, is going to host the show, and I am more than likely going to add commentary and answer the questions. So,
Exciting.
are you excited?
I am. Finally let go of a little bit of control here.
I mean, it's our show, so
Mm-hmm. Right. So let's jump into it.
all right, let's go.
Episode 3. We're supposed to be recapping our last one.
Yeah. Do you remember what the last episode was? Yikes. So, the last episode we talked about sex, monogamy, and friends.
That was a good one.
It was.
My friends enjoyed listening to
They
that
did?
one. Mm-hmm. They all listened.
I'm happy for your friends that actually tuned in and listened. That's awesome. That's amazing. Um, Part of the things that we talked about was whether or not you could be in a relationship and, you know, faithfully to one relationship while being exclusive. Exclusivity was part of the main topic. So, I mean, if you need us to go into further detail, you could just go back and listen to the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of talk about monogamy and whether or not we could handle it. I think I still stand by my word that maybe in another life, but I'm gonna sit this one out.
Interesting. So yeah, that was the recap of our last episode.
Okay, so getting into today, we are going to start with our first question from Mr. Stephen here.
Ooh.
What are things that hold men back in a relationship?
I would say that some things that hold men back in a relationship are some communication barriers. Some men may not be willing or wanting to communicate all that well, all too soon. I guess.
Why is that, do you think?
I think it's because we're still having a I can't speak for anybody else, but I can just speak for myself. Um, there's this filling out process. Like you're still trying to debate whether or not within yourself whether this is how you see things going. Um, some things are still uncertain in a man's mind, I believe, and it seems like it feels like they may be um, unconcerned about things, but it's really just more so like trying to understand within themselves, like how do I go about these things? How do I go about communicating? How do I go about opening up? How do I go about doing the things and the things and the things that my partner is asking me for without necessarily feeling like I'm being pressured to do so, if that makes sense.
So it's kind of like a trust thing. You're still trying to gain trust for your partner, so it blocks the communication. You're not able to be vulnerable just yet.
I would say it's partly um I would say it's more comfort than it is trust.
Mm.
Cuz like you can start having trust at the beginning of the relationship without really being in the relationship as long,
Mm-hmm.
but you gain more comfort, like with time, with experience, and I don't think that necessarily has to do with trust itself, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what do you think some things are that hold women back in relationships?
Um, I feel that um, their insecurities are more so prevalent in a relationship. Um, if they're used to doing one thing one way, um, they'd want it the way they want it to be. You know, say for instance, you haven't been loved in your previous relationship. Not you specifically, but speaking generally. Say for instance, you weren't loved the right way in your previous relationship, and then you start getting loved the right way in your new relationship, your current relationship. Um, you may not be used to that love. You may be like, whoa, this is like, how do I know that this is real? How do I know he's not playing games? How do I know he's just like not putting on a show for now? And then later on, it's just different. The insecurities come up like, oh, well, why me? Why is this happening to me now? Why is this like that? I feel like men are more secure in a way that they don't worry about things of that nature. And if they do, then it's like they don't voice those insecurities because there's the the facade that they have to be the man in a relationship and not let too many things get to them, even though there's a lot of things that get to men, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that women know what they want and aren't receiving um, certain things to their expectations, but that comes with time. It's like women expect, well, I feel like some women expect men to like already have everything together, already have the things ready and openly give everything, but yet, it's more. I feel like the last episode we were talking about, it's more like pressure. Even though she's not meaning to pressure him, it's like, well, if you don't have your stuff together, it's, I need you to do this. I need you to do these things. I need you to do the things and things. That way we can, go on with our relationship. And from a man's point of view, it's like, all right, well, get your shit together or else. It feels more like an ultimatum more so than a partnership.
So, do you not feel like men have those same expectations for women? You don't think that on day number one, there are just certain things that you want to happen, prefer to happen, kind of expect to happen. And so over the course of time, you too wouldn't be disappointed if you felt like, things weren't going a certain way. I don't necessarily feel like women are always trying to pressure men. I think that especially women who have been hurt in the past, we're trying not to repeat cycles.
Right.
So I know for myself in particular, one of the things that I keep in the forefront of my head is not dating people for potential anymore.
Mm.
I was watching this one woman that I follow on Instagram, and she was talking a lot about how easily women fall for men, and we will stay in a relationship for years and years and years just based off of a man's potential. And that potential may never really come to fruition. We just know that they're capable of it, and we cling to that. And then we end up getting into situations that aren't serving us. So I don't necessarily think that it's all about insecurities or things from the past, kind of making us a certain way. I think that it's really just like a defense mechanism. Sometimes we want more for ourselves. And so there are men out there who are willing to give that on day number one. I think that my opinion of what holds men back in relationships, yes, is communication, but I think it has a lot to do with being vulnerable. I think that when women seek men out, they're looking to be vulnerable with someone, and I think that it comes more naturally for us to do so, whereas men, they take a long time to want to give themselves. So you have to dig and dig and dig before you can really say, I know my partner fully, or, my partner tells me everything or shares everything. I feel like men are much more reserved.
I think that has to do with the fact that men are expected to be at the forefront of a lot of things. Men are expected to do this. Men are expected to be the protector and the provider in certain things, in certain aspects. But then it's like, well, is this the right person? You can't just give
Mm-hmm.
everybody that same type of commitment. And say, for instance, if you were hurt in your past, like, I'm not saying that that would be a reason to not give yourself fully in the next relationship. It just takes time to want to open up and be as forward and committed as you were in a previous relationship when you gave your all, and it went nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, if something happened in your previous relationship to where you felt like you were crossed, you felt like you were mistreated, then it's like, okay, why do I continue to give my all to somebody who doesn't deserve it? So it's really like the man trying to figure out whether
Do
or
we
not she
deserve it?
deserves it, you know?
That's understandable.
Yeah.
But I feel like if women moved that way, then we wouldn't be in relationships because men are not always as able to withstand that kind of pressure. Like to me, that feels like pressure. You're
Mm.
trying to challenge me in a
Mm.
sense. You're trying to test me. You want to put me through X, Y, and Z and see how long I can hang in there before you finally decide to give me you. And I just kind of feel like that's not how love goes. When you
Mm.
decide to be in a relationship, or at least the way that I grew up, the way that my father always told me is when you decide to give yourself to somebody in a relationship, you go all the way in. You know, love is difficult and it's tricky, and you can get your feelings hurt, but that's the game. So to me, I just feel like if you don't want to take the risk of getting hurt, then you should just stay single.
But not everybody is willing to go all in at first.
They should stay single.
But that's that's not accurate.
That
That's
takes me to the next question.
that's I feel like if you're wanting to go all in at the drop of a dime as soon as the relationship happens, that's not.
I'm not saying you have to go all in on the first day. I'm just saying that you have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yes, of course, but you can't just be completely vulnerable at any given time at just the drop of the dime. With all that everyone experiences, you that that takes comfortability, like the willingness to want to be vulnerable.
So, how do you know, or when do you know, if this person is the one to open up to be vulnerable with? How do you figure? What do they do, or what signs are you looking for that will make men feel more comfortable with their partner?
Experience. It's 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 more so like being put in situations to where you feel like you can open up with your partner rather so than it being like, okay, well, we've been dating for 3 months, so I think you need to be a little more vulnerable with me now. No, that's not how that works. um with men, it's like in situations to where um like loyalty is tested, then that's when you know that somebody is loyal. Or in situations where, you know, whether somebody is being true, that's when it proves that they are true, you know? Like when somebody is talking about you behind your back and somebody comes up to you and they're like, "Oh yeah, well they were doing this, I saw them doing that." Well, if that's not something that I heard directly from my partner, then it's like, okay, I don't know where this information is coming from. Cuz we can hear a lot of stuff from outside sources and then be like, well, go back to your partner and be like, okay, well, I heard this about you. I heard this about you. Then it's just about playing the he said, she said game, instead of trusting your partner to do what he or she is going to do, whether it be in your presence or outside your presence. I don't know if I'm explaining this the right way, but it just feels like um you can't necessarily always give everything openly. It's like
But yet you're asking the person to trust their partner on day number one. Do you see how
no,
backwards that is?
I don't. That's not backwards because that's not how I see it. I I want in my relationship. I have this expectation of certain things. You know, if you say that you're true, okay, you're true. Until you give me a reason to not believe that you're true.
And
So
then what do if that person gives you a reason to not believe that they're true?
then it's like you question everything before it, you start questioning everything after it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you still give opportunities to trust them. I guess if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, it's like you're a little more standoffish, I guess, and it feels like what's the right word? It's like it goes back to a filling out process. Once you've been in a situation to where um, the person has been untrue or unloyal or the something else, it's like you have to refigure out whether this is what you want. I don't know if I made any sense on that last one, or if I even answered your original question, but
Let's get into the next bullet point because it's going to kind of piggyback off of it. So, what are some barriers in a relationship that each person needs to get over or get past?
um, I would say that for both, a person's expectation of what should happen in a relationship needs to be thrown out of the window.
And why is that?
Um, if you're expecting somebody to do a certain thing just off the bat, then more than likely that's not going to be the outcome. There can be a standard of what you're not going to accept and what you do accept,
Mm-hmm.
but like just overall expectations of like, oh, I expect him to, you know, communicate with me daily and tell me how his day was or hit me up and this and that and call me when he's not doing anything or want to see me all the time or make this, make that. It's like sometimes those expectations are are good expectations. Sometimes they're not good expectations because there's some there's some reasons and I don't want to say excuses because excuses already sounds like you're making excuses. But it's like everybody's not built that same way. They have things that happen to them that causes them to be a certain way. Um, like work, for instance, can be something that changes on a day to day basis. So like if you were working at a job to where, at the beginning everything's cool and then it starts to get more tiring and you start to exude more energy at your job, then it may seem like you're more standoffish in your relationship because you've given all you can at your job. And then when it comes to your relationship, it seems like you're lacking because you're not doing the same things you used to do. But I feel like having an expectation, like me personally, every time I've expected something to happen a certain way, it's never turned out that way. And I felt like I was always disappointed in the end because I had such high expectations. I don't I don't want to expect certain things in a relationship because I don't want to be disappointed. And I feel like having expectations leads to disappointments. I could be wrong, but for me per se, I feel like if I have expectations, then it's leading towards something that I don't want to be in. Because say for instance, I expected you to call me when you wake up, or you expected me to call you when I wake up, and I don't call you or you don't call me, then we're both disappointed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So like I feel like, all right, well, if she wants to talk to me, she'll call me. And you'll feel like, well, if he wants to talk to me, he'll call me. But sometimes that's not always what happens. So like I feel like you can still be um very much so into a relationship without necessarily talking for hours on the phone every day, but yet still be very committed into that relationship. Um, and it feels like the barrier of not communicating to a certain extent on a daily basis is is I would say it's both detrimental and too much for certain relationships. Because having no communication in a relationship is terrible. That relationship is bound to fall, and it's bound to not work at all. But as long as you're communicating, then I feel that everything can be worked out. Everything can be worked on, you know? So another barrier in a relationship, going back to the original question, is communication, whether it be positive communication or negative. So it can affect either way depending on which way you look at it.
I would have to say, I think that the biggest barrier I see in relationships is carrying your old habits into your relationship, whether it be the way you grew up or how you did things in a past relationship or even how you lived your life as a single person and now dating again. Um, I feel like a lot of people get comfortable. They feel like, oh, well, you met me this way, so that's how you should be comfortable with me being. And I agree with that because you don't want to change your partner. But at the same time, I feel like when you decide to date somebody, you are kind of making a commitment to meet that person halfway. So, if you sat around playing video games all day like most men do these days and now you're in a relationship, you would think that that would be a bit of time that you would be willing to bend. You know what I mean? Like, you recognize that your partner wants your attention and that your partner is there, and obviously they're not there just to stare at the ceiling. So, make time for them. Make them understand that yes, this is your lifestyle, but that they have a space in it. I think that that's something that a lot of men miss, is that we're not really asking for you to stop what you're doing. We're just asking for you to make room for us. We don't want to sit on the phone all day either. We don't want to be in constant communication either. I think that we just genuinely want to know that you think about us. We want to know that we're a priority. We want to know that there's room for us. So I think that that's one of the biggest barriers. And even for women, we're accustomed to certain things, whether we come from being in a past relationship or from being single, and we're used to living our daily lives how we live it. And then you get in a relationship with somebody who requires a certain thing or is asking a certain thing of you. It does take a little bit of energy to maneuver, but I think that it's a necessary one when you're trying to prove yourself, which goes back to, what you were saying in the first question, just trying to make some solid foundation over time. If you don't ever show your partner that they're a priority to you, then over time, that relationship will probably start to dwindle, you don't think?
In most cases, sure, I would agree. Uh, but every case is not the same case. So it would just you would have to be in that situation in order to like effectively answer that.
Mm.
Because what works for one person may not work for the next, and what doesn't work for one person may actually work for the next person. So that may sound like a typical Libra answer, like balancing out some things and trying to play devil's advocate, but like in all actuality, it's like, well, maybe that works for them, but it may not work for everybody.
Okay. So the next one is, who is more insecure in a relationship? The man, the woman? What do you think?
Before we get to this question, never mind. So who is the more insecure in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
The woman or the man? Um, I think that that's a double-edged question. Um, Honestly, I believe that the man is more insecure in a relationship. They just may not say it.
Mm.
When women are insecure in relationships, it's known.
Mm-hmm. It's
When
very loud.
when men are insecure in relationships, most cases the woman doesn't know about it.
Mm.
So there's things about themselves that they secretly battle that they don't want other people to know about. But like with women, um, they say it, they voice it, a lot of their insecurities. But men aren't necessarily willing to open up about their insecurities. Maybe that should be a next another topic for our podcast.
That would be a good one, because I really want to understand, like, why do men feel like it's not okay to be vulnerable about the things that really bother them on the inside? Why do y'all feel the need to walk around with this exterior as if everything's okay all the time? Nothing bothers me. I'm secure within myself, when really everything bothers you.
Because that's what society teaches us to do.
Okay, well, grow up. Like, you don't get to be this old and still moved by society. That's a terrible
But
excuse.
that's what we're taught
So unlearn it.
from the beginning. Like,
Do you
and
want a healthy
and that
relationship?
that's another thing too. Like
Do you want a
that's
healthy relationship?
I understand your question. I'm getting to your question, but at the same time, we're taught at a very young age that this is how things are supposed to work. You can't just expect everybody to drop what they've learned for however many years that they've been alive just to change it all of a sudden at a drop of a dime for a healthy relationship. That doesn't it doesn't work like that. So a lot of people, a lot of men would feel like, you know, saying this, that's the insecurity. Like what I'm taught at a very young age throughout all my life, that a man is supposed to do this, that a man is supposed to do that. That's a big insecurity because you're still trying to live up to that. But yet you get in a relationship and they want you to be vulnerable when everybody is teaching you that no, you're not supposed to be vulnerable. So like just dropping that at a drop of a dime just to be in a relationship is takes some getting used to. It
So,
takes
you personally, do
some
you think
grips.
that it's okay for a man to be insecure in a relationship?
Of course.
And what about voicing that?
Um I feel like at points it's okay to voice it. Like it's always okay to voice your insecurities before it starts sounding like it's complaining. And I feel like um men have been groomed to not complain about things, just to get over it. Excuse me. Just to get over it and deal with it and move on and continue to pursue and continue to push through. And then I feel on the same token that women have been groomed to voice their concerns, to voice their opinions about whether or not this and that. So it's like naturally when you come into a relationship, there's going to be confrontation because on one hand you have somebody saying that, oh, it's okay for the woman to voice her concerns and to almost feel like it's complaining. But when they say it's complaining, then it's like, oh no, she's just voicing her opinions. But if a man is voicing his opinions in the same token, in the same sense, it's like, oh well, you just need to grow up and get over it, you know. So that's the disconnect where it's like, okay, well, all right, if I'm being told this, then okay, then why should I even voice my opinions? Because it's going to sound like I'm complaining, you know.
I'd have to disagree about the woman part of it because I don't know a single woman who just out of teenage years was comfortable with complaining and voicing every little thing and concern that they have in their relationship. I think that we're actually very similar in a sense that we're taught to shut the hell up and just deal with whatever our men give us. If they're cheaters, if they're liars, if they're abusers, if they don't bring money home, if they don't feel like raising kids, we just deal with it. Deal with it, deal with it, deal with it. So
I'm not talking about in the relationship sense. Like I feel
I'm
like you're
just saying in society
no.
overall.
I feel like you're talking about in the relationship sense. I feel like in certain things that like okay, even in like women I think that's a bad example, but I'm gonna give that example anyways because when a woman is pregnant, regardless of the man is there or not, she's expected to provide for the kids. You know, she's expected to do this, that, and the other thing because she's the mom. You know, and I feel that in that instance that she shouldn't be a woman complaining is not the way to go. You know, I feel like that is a barrier because there's certain things a woman can complain about because you know she's in this by herself. She's raising the kids. She's going to work. She's providing for them. She's putting food on the table, shelter over their head, while trying to maintain her lifestyle, while trying to be in a healthy relationship, while trying to make money, while trying to save up money, while trying to, you know, make sure that the kids have funds for when they want to go to school. So it's like a bunch of things is in the same instance where a man feels like he shouldn't be complaining, I feel like women are told that same thing too. I feel like in the same token about that, I feel like um, women have more of a. It may not always be the case, but I feel like women have a stronger community to help them along the way. Rather than so it's just like the man is expected to do this. The man is expected to be a father to his kids, or the man is expected to do these things in a relationship. And I feel like it's it's all a barrier.
So I wonder, with all the things that go on in relationships, it turns women cold a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And we choose to just be reserved, to back off, to give men space and tone down our clinginess, and be what you have quoted unemotional. How do you feel about that? Do you think that that's a red flag, seeing a woman be unemotional in a relationship, or you think that that's like another balance? Sometimes it's needed. Tone down all of our emotions.
I feel that both are needed. Like some you can't have one without the other. So like you can't have a woman that voices her opinion expected to be, you know, unemotional. But then you like men want a woman to be clingy to a certain extent. Women men want women that's gonna like voice their opinions to a certain extent. Like once it gets past a certain extent, then it's like, okay, well, you need to shut up. But like I feel that once once people stop trying to control that and just let people be who they be, then it's a difference. So like in every relationship, you could say, well, I wish that she would be more this, more that, but it's there's a very fine line. Like me personally, either way, whether you're clingy, whether you feel like you're emotionless or uh, unemotional, is what I wrote, I believe. Um, I feel that that comes into play in certain situations. So someone like so in one of my past relationships, I felt like somebody was unemotional because we would spend time together, but yet um, it felt like they were detached. I felt, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It didn't feel as if they weren't there all the time. So it feels like you're alone in situations to where you feel like your partner should be there. Um, I felt in certain situations like the way she went about saying things would make her unemotional, you know? Like there's how do I say this? Like saying it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it, you know? So if you were to tell me that I did something a certain way and it hurt you, but if you were to come off and say, "Oh, that shit was fucked up," blah 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 blah, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're just voicing your opinion and telling me how it made you feel versus telling me that I fucked up are two different things. And it's like, okay, well, how do I go about changing this? You know? Does that make sense?
Makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult for me to not detach sometimes. So the question of like, is it okay for women to be unemotional in a relationship? I feel like is one that I ask myself every day because I get tired of always being clingy and I get tired of like all of my overt cancer ways. They
Hmm.
honestly get in the way of everyday life because I feel like 90% of the folks in my life don't deserve it. I don't be feeling like I just should be out here super loving everybody. So it does make me cold sometimes. It does make me not want to pick up the phone. It does make me not want to laugh. It makes me not want to say I love you back to folks sometimes because I just be feeling like y'all
They
not
don't deserve it.
reciprocating. Yeah, it's just not reciprocated. Like I said, it's a very unfortunate thing because I feel like a lot of women out there have so much love to give. So this conversation is so triggering because it's just like to think that there are women out there who would consider themselves unemotional or would say that they aren't clingy in a relationship. It's just like, why? We're talking about love here. We're talking about all the mushy things and stuff. Like why is that not okay? Why do I have to feel like I have to dumb down or water down my feelings and my love for somebody because they don't know how to be that way because they don't know how to reciprocate? That just kind of feels whack to me. It makes me feel like, well, then this is just kind of platonic. Like maybe we're just like associates then. If I can't be vulnerable enough with you to want to be annoyingly cute and, all the things, then what the hell are you doing? That's just how I feel. But again, I recognize that me and my dramatic cancer feelings, people don't want to deal with that. So I keep it to myself and my kids. My kids love the mushy Cora.
I mean, I believe I believe kids in general are more meant for
Mm-hmm.
the clingy.
Layla loves that shit. When I have a good day and I'm like, oh
Oh
my
my
God,
gosh,
Layla.
mom!
Yes, she be lit. Like,
Mommy,
hold
I love
on.
you.
Mommy is in a good mood.
I love you
She
so much,
wants to
mommy.
cuddle.
Mommy, did you know that I just love you? What
Mm-hmm.
makes you melt,
And
right?
it does. And that's the reason why I've been trying to tone down my attitude. Because sometimes I be looking at her like, dog, you have said I love you 15 times today. But it's just like, damn, the baby loves you. And
Can
she
she
wants to
not
tell
love
you
you?
exactly. That's
Is
how
it not
us
okay?
adults feel. That's how us adults feel. It's like, damn,
And
can
then
I not just say that I love you and again? I can't just text you again.
I feel
Okay.
like in certain relationships, like
The answer
You
is
you
no.
can you can and you can't do that in certain relationships.
Men don't like that. Y'all lying. Y'all be saying that y'all want a woman who's clingy and you want a girl to be all on you. The truth is you don't. You want for them to say that.
No,
You
no, no,
want for
no,
them to
no.
be capable of
Like
it. You want it for them
me for instance,
when you're ready to do it.
I want it to a certain extent. Like
What is the extent,
like
Stefan?
if
Can we get a ruler
if
for
you're
the
if you're
extent?
I can't be in a capacity to receive all this clinginess when like I'm dog tired from
No, Lord.
from my job. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes a nigga just want to come home and go to fuck to sleep. Sometimes a nigga just want to come home and get on his fucking game. But then, you know, other times a nigga really be wanting to be loved by his girl. You know what I'm saying?
Tough.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I put it in a sense like clothing. It's gonna be a weird analogy, but it kind of works. So like in certain situations, are you gonna wear a suit and tie every day, or are you gonna go out and wear what's comfortable, wear what's feasible for the situation? You know what I'm saying? Like every situation doesn't cause for a suit and tie. Sometimes you got to put on your jeans, your t-shirts. Sometimes you just need to be bummy. Sometimes it does cause for you to dress up nice, smell good, look good, feel good. You know what I'm saying? And other times you just don't feel it. And it is okay. And I feel like in certain situations, women always wanted to be okay to like be clingy. But like, okay, be clingy. Just don't be upset when I'm not clingy.
Bet. Okay, so who is more stubborn and hard headed in a relationship?
I feel like the man is more hard headed in a relationship. Um, because like say if you've been single for a long time and you get in a relationship, you're more so willing to do the things that you want to do. It's like, all right, well, I go to work, I come home, I go to sleep, or I play games, or I do this. So like when you get in a relationship, it's like it's more so trying to balance out your life, your day, your
Y'all be struggling
commitment
with
to
that.
it. Hey, watch your mouth. Um, it's like you get in a sense a false sense of contentment in a relationship. Like you do all the work to get in the relationship, and once you're in a relationship, it's just like I'm content. So like me myself, I can say that I've done that numerous of times while you're over here shaking your head.
The complacency is just very real,
Right.
and folks don't like to admit that.
It's but it's sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. It's just it is what it is at times. But I wouldn't always look at it as a bad thing. It's more so like hard headedness. Like I still wanna it's not like I wanna have my cake and eat it too while like out talking to everybody, but it's just like I work hard to get you and some men, me at times, don't feel like that you have to continue working hard to keep her, you know? Like I know that I have to continue to work hard to keep my woman, but then in the same sense it's like, okay, well, let me calm down a little bit because my pocket is not gonna agree with me. But then a woman's gonna come and say, well, it doesn't take money to do the things and the things. But then in a man's eyes, it's gonna be like, well, it doesn't take money to chill in the house and watch video games
There are
or
so many
play
things to do
movies and
besides
do
watch
this or
Netflix and
do
play video
that.
games
You know?
that don't cost money.
Like what?
You have to find what your partner likes.
What do you like?
I love going to the beach. Very simple. It's literally one of my favorite things to do. I will
That
go to
costs
the
gas
beach.
money.
I will go to the beach at any time of the year and just
You're
sit.
lying.
guess I am then.
In the rain? You'd go in the rain?
I'm not gonna sit out on the beach, but I have absolutely sat in my car at the beach while it is raining. Yep.
Mm.
It's just what I like.
But that's not that's not something that doesn't cost anything.
Okay.
I mean, the gas.
Okay.
Because if you go to the beach enough times, you're gonna be filling up that tank a few times. But I
But that's the
digress.
thing. Nobody's asking you to do these things every day. It's just occasional, you know? So dramatic. Anyway, let's move right along because you're turning this into a debate here.
It's not a debate.
My personal opinion on who is more stubborn is definitely a man. I think
Of
that
course.
don't say of course though. I think that men are more stubborn simply because they are selfish. I feel like it takes a long time for men to want to do for others. Once they want to, then it's lit like a lamp. But they're very stubborn about themselves. They're not going to put anybody else before them. Period.
I wouldn't say period.
Mm, period.
I feel
Like I
like
said, it
I
takes
feel
some
like I feel
time.
like women are more prone to like caring more so because like when you come into certain things, like women are more caring individuals to begin with. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
So like when it comes to other things, it's like, all right, well,
We're
man,
not selfish.
of course you're not selfish.
The facial expressions behind this doggone podcast, man. Why didn't we record today?
That would have been great.
It really would have.
Yeah,
Because the facial expressions are really egregious today.
they're on point like
Moving
always.
on. Who is more likely to apologize or admit that they were wrong in a relationship?
Not the woman. I feel like neither.
I was going to say neither as well. It
I feel
depends on
like
the particular relationship.
it depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been times in our relationship to where you've came back to me and said that I was wrong. And you were like, "Well, you did tell me this and I have to come back and I have to tell you that I was wrong."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in both instances it's like, well, it's like you don't want to necessarily tell your partner that I told you so, but in the back of your mind, whether or not you're wrong or right, if you said something and you were right about it in your mind, you're going to be like, I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But then there's been times when I was wrong in our relationship and I haven't voiced that I was wrong, you know?
Mm. Why is that?
Um, because I don't want to admit it. I don't want to hear you say, I told you so. Um, Not that I know that you're going to say, I told you so, but just the feeling that I was wrong is a barrier. Tying it all together, baby.
Mm.
That's good podcasting. That's good writing.
So, who do you think has a bigger wall to tear down in a relationship?
Definitely the man.
I'm glad you know.
You know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate and I'm going to say the woman.
Oh, man.
Because, like, in most cases, women's first love is always going to be their father. Always. Like, if he's loving her the right way, then that wall has to come down. Because it's like, I'm not saying that, you shouldn't have the correct love from a father, but then it's like, that's when the expectation comes, you know? And like we were talking about earlier, a lot of expectations leads to disappointment. You know? Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I would also say women for have a bigger wall to tear down because it's like they go through much more so on a vocal sense of what it is that they need to do in reality. When I feel like men, they know the expectations and it's just like, all right, either I'm either living up to this expectation or I'm not. And either way, they're okay with it. And in a lot of senses, you can't do that as a woman. Like, you can't be expected to be super mom and then have have a life of your own. You can't be expected to, go out to the club when you have kids at home. You can't be expected to, go to sleep early when you have other mouths in the house to feed, you know? Does that make sense? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, who has the bigger wall to tear down? Definitely it's men, because of all the things that they're unfortunately groomed to come to know as before they even become men. So yes, they have a bigger wall to tear down, but just to play devil's advocate, women have a big wall to tear down as well.
I would have to say that I think men have a bigger wall to tear down because at least women recognize the wall and we can kind of give you some tips and trips and I said trips, tricks to help along the way. Like we can acknowledge what's wrong with us. Y'all don't be knowing what the hell is going on with you. You just go through life haphazard as hell, and then at 40 years old, all of a sudden you start to recognize that you have some childhood traumas and shit going on, and now all of a sudden you need mommy and a therapist. So then you look back on life and
I wouldn't
recognize,
agree. I wouldn't agree with that.
and then you look back on life and recognize how you've treated all these people in your life
Mm.
and that it wasn't really all about them. I think women realize that a lot sooner. So I would say y'all's wall is a lot worse.
I wouldn't say that it's worse. I would say that they're equal in a sense. It just depends on the person to deal with that wall. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I feel like,
Everybody ain't built.
all right, okay.
Everybody is not built to tear down your wall. I just don't believe that they are. I think that there are some people out there, women in particular, that some men they just cannot handle what they have going on. And I don't know if it's a lack of want or if that woman just really has been through too much, but I definitely think that there are some men who should just recognize that somebody is too much for them. Be like, you know what? I actually can't do this.
Oh my gosh, you're too much for me.
Mm, I figured.
You know what? I'm sick of you. Go to the next goddamn. Goddamn.
What plagues
Who
men
said
more?
this? Oh,
Look
oh
at you.
snap.
See, that's what happens when you start talking reckless to me.
Hey, watch your mouth.
Spirit is all over me.
You know what? I'm sick of you.
What plagues men more in a relationship? Their ego or their pride?
I think they're one and the same. Like, their ego is gonna drive them to be who they are, and their pride is what got them there. Like, the pride is what comes with every man to be considered a man. Like, you're supposed to do this, blah 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 blah. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wish y'all could see me right now because
You're
I'm
really
like,
trying it.
I'm like
Really trying
really
it.
bogarted her right now in this booth. But no, I feel like the ego is equally as plaguing as their pride, because their ego is what, to a certain extent, draws a woman to a man. Like, oh, he's cocky, but I like it. Or he's driven. Oh, I like that. That's that ego. The pride is what doesn't allow them to, like, move past certain things. Their pride is what causes them to stay in what the Cora Geo would like to say, a sunken place.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you one isn't more excessive than the other, but they're both pretty excessive.
I think that ego is what you deal with on the inside. I think that the pride is what everybody else gets to see. So I think, yes, in a
I would
sense,
flip that.
that's you. I would think that for me, my experience of men is that, like, their ego can be big, But if they can tame themselves, then their pride doesn't get in the way. They can still ask for help. They can still be second. They can still put others first.
But even to debuff that, like I was saying, that's the other way, because like you've told me many of times, like, oh my gosh, you have so much ego,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't see my pride.
We don't.
You don't. You see my ego because you clearly state, oh my gosh, you have so much ego.
Mm-hmm.
You state
And you
more so.
walk around with that
You
24/7.
right,
That is the Stefan.
but you state more so that I have more ego and not enough that I'm proud or that I have
No,
pride.
you say that about you. I think you're very prideful. You carry yourself
But
in
that
a
goes into
way.
what I was just saying. Like, you state more so that, oh my gosh, you have so much ego. More so
Mm-hmm.
than you state that I have pride, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that tie into like you seeing my pride? I mean, my ego more so than my pride?
Sure, but I think that that's because I'm the one who's in a relationship with you. My point is that other people outside of us, they see
I'm
the
taking a lot
prideful
of pictures right
Stefan.
now, so
Yeah, because the facial expressions, yo,
don't cross your arms,
everybody
baby.
else sees the pridefulness. I don't have to not see either. It's a package deal for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, whatever.
What plagues women more in a relationship? Come on, bro.
Sorry. What plagues women more in a relationship?
Their insecurities or their want to fix their relationship. I just be feeling like you're coming for me in a lot of these questions.
But these
This
are
is such a
questions.
hot
These are
podcast because I really feel like you're
these are
attacking me.
questions. Well, if the shoe fit, wears it.
Oh,
You know.
bet. I
Um,
bet.
I feel that in a relationship, I feel like in our relationship, I feel like your insecurities plague you more so than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're both equally prevalent, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to fix our relationship, but you also are working on your insecurities, you know? So that's like, again, I don't ask these questions or write down these questions to take shots at the Cora Agia. I write them down because they are great conversation.
Mm.
They make for great podcasts. They make for truth telling. They make for, vulnerability from what we were talking about earlier. And it's always a segue back to something that we talked about in a previous episode or the current episode.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that you're hosting this particular episode
Mm.
and you feel like I'm taking shots at you, but I'm really not.
Well, it's not even that. It's just more so that, like, you can ask a question and say, what plagues me more in my relationship, my insecurities, or my want to fix things. But then no one gets to see the back story to that. Why do my insecurities pop out when they do? Why am I wanting to fix the relationship all the time?
But that's also a way to segue into that type of question.
Okay.
Just because the questions are not up there on our outline doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
I don't think the people have that kind of time.
Oh, they have time if they're tuning in because our episode right now is almost at an hour.
Right. So,
You know what I'm saying? So thank you for tuning in, by the way.
anyway, um, I guess we're talking about me on this bullet point, and I would definitely say that my insecurities get in the way of my relationship all the time because I have a lot of PTSD and past trauma that I have to get over. And unfortunately, when you do shit that triggers me, it makes me feel away. Period.
Of course, that goes for anybody.
Yeah, but you're saying that goes for anybody, but for me, it's considered an insecurity, whereas for other people, it would just be considered what? Questioning their partner.
Well, this isn't more so about me questioning you. I feel like
Me questioning you.
I feel like in these outlines, it has nothing to do with our relationship. Like, absolutely nothing. I don't write these questions based off of the relationship that I have with the Cora Agia.
First of all, can we acknowledge the fact that this is the first time you've ever acknowledged that we're in a relationship on air? That's an insecurity for me right there.
It's not, because I've alley-ooped it to you so many times.
Okay.
Just like our intros. I alley-oop a great segue into you introducing yourself and being like, Cora, blah, 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 blah. But you don't ever take it.
Because that's just not my personality.
Like, in every episode, I've been like, so who you talking to? And you'd be like, okay, we're moving on. Am I right or am I wrong?
That was in the
Let's talk
beginning.
about it, seeing that we're here.
That was in the
Let's
beginning.
talk about it, seeing that we're here.
We're talking.
Like last
that
episode.
That was in the beginning of
last
our
episode I did
relationship
that.
where I didn't know that we were being out yet.
Last episode I did that.
No, you did not do that.
We're going to go back and listen to this episode, the last one we did.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the episode, I clearly stated, so who you talking to? You got a man's?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, all right, let's move on. And then next week on the podcast, she's going to have to come to terms and be like, you were right.
I know that I have done that several times in the past because I didn't know that we were being out yet.
I'm not hiding anything over here. Okay, here she goes with the eyebrow raising. The Rock. The Dwayne Rock Johnson over here with the eyebrow raise.
I just want to make sure you're sure when you're saying this on air.
If I wasn't sure, I wouldn't say it. The Cora Agia.
Oof.
Jesus. Let's segue on to the next step.
Please. I can't even see.
Yikes.
Who is more likely to want to fix the relationship?
The woman, of course. And I don't even think that needs to be talked about.
So who's more likely to feel that something is wrong?
The man, of course.
No.
Oh, because I thought you were, who's more likely to feel that nothing is wrong in the relationship?
That nothing is wrong.
Yeah. And that's the man. Yeah.
Typical. Yep.
You know what?
Y'all are oblivious to clear signs right in your face. You
and
guys, time after time.
I have told you time and time again, I am oblivious when it comes to seeing signs.
On air.
I mean, but it's okay because this is our podcast and we can do that. And it's what? Communication.
It's just unfortunate that you guys make it seem as if being in a relationship is like rocket science.
Sometimes.
I feel like
sometimes you have to have a degree in rocket science.
I feel like
engineering.
I communicate. I over communicate in my relationship to the point where it makes me feel pathetic. I be sitting there thinking sometimes, okay, you're really just fucking with me because you want me to be mad. I feel like I over communicate my needs all the time. I feel like you just don't care. And it's very unfortunate because you want to talk about men being oblivious to issues in their relationship. Y'all will lose out time and time again because women get exhausted of repeating themselves and asking for things. It starts to feel like we're begging. So guess what? I'm just going to be cool. Don't even worry about me.
Oh, now that you got your nails done, you can actually throw the peace sign.
I almost hit you.
You see this? You see this? She's very abusive in this relationship.
That is a lie.
Okay.
Who needs to have more control in a relationship?
Neither. There isn't a set designation for control in a relationship.
I don't know. I agree that neither. But I think it depends on what you're talking about control of. Because there are so many different things to take responsibility for in a relationship.
Like I've told you many of times, I can't control you. I don't pretend that I control you. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to think that I control you. Mm-hmm. Whether we're friends, whether we're boyfriend and girlfriend, whether we're husband and wife, that's not going to change. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to feel like I have control over you just because we have a title.
Mm.
Just like I can't stop you from hitting me, I can't stop you from.
You're really gonna go through with that?
I mean, you're the one that threatened me on the air, so.
Okay. Anywho, should women be more dominant in a relationship?
Of course not.
I was about to say, I don't know what you think this is.
Yeah,
Should we be more
that's a
dominant?
big hell no.
I think that was one of my biggest problems in my last relationship is that I came from childhood very independent and very just tough and dominant. I grew up with all boys mostly,
Yikes.
and that's just how I was. I was rough and tough. So trying to transition into a romantic relationship, especially one where we live together and we're married, that was rough for me for a while because I didn't know how to be soft. I didn't know how to tone down
Mama
all
ain't
of
raised
that.
no hoe.
Yeah, I didn't know how to tone it down. So I was very dominant for a long time and it messed up a lot of things. And now I'd like to think that I have a little bit more balance. Um, what the hell is funny? You're really getting on my nerve today.
You see this? She's very
So,
abusive.
should men be more submissive in a relationship?
Yes, massa. That was my answer, by the way.
Okay. You're really killing the end of this doggone podcast right now. Oh my God.
This is fun.
I think that the word submissive gets on my nerve.
Why?
Because it just gives off a wrong connotation. I don't want for me to be your master and you be my slave, but I do want for you to bend and be flexible to my needs and to read the room, understand when it's all about you and when it's not.
Isn't that what submissive is?
Yeah, I think submissive takes it a little
'Cause,
further
like,
than that. Submissive to
all
me
right,
makes me feel like I have to do what you say regardless of if it's what I want to do or not.
Then you clearly don't understand the reason why I wrote it like I wrote it. So, like in the previous question, when I said, should women be more dominant in a relationship? Yes, they should be more dominant to a certain extent. Yes, men should be more submissive to a certain extent.
Mm.
But I'm not going to give away the answer in the question.
Mm.
That's bad writing. It causes for more interpretation on a subject if it's just written like that, you know?
Mm.
You write open-ended questions so you have more of a dialogue in between the questions. So, submissive, when I say more submissive, it's implied that the man is more dominant. When I write that should women be more dominant in a relationship, it's supposed to be implied that a woman is more submissive. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So in instances like those, yes, a woman should be more dominant in a relationship, and yes, a man should be more submissive in a relationship because it causes for equal control in a relationship. That's just woo, tying it all in together. You know what I'm saying? My teacher would be so proud of me right now because like tying it all together. That's what we talked about all last semester. But yeah, let's go. Let's do this. We almost there.
Should women feel like they are the only ones who want to improve their relationship?
Hell no.
But when do you feel like you've ever mentioned things that you want to improve in your relationship?
That's why I say hell no. Like, should women only feel like they need to be the ones that fix the relationship? No. They don't need to be the only one that feels that they need to fix a relationship.
Mm-mm.
So there needs to be a point in a relationship where the man needs to be like, oh yeah, well, we need to fix this shit because we coming to grips, we coming to blows. Not physically, except for when she was just like, threatening me on the air, like, you know what I'm saying? She just rolled her eyes at me. I just want y'all to know.
Dramatics.
I just want y'all to know that she just rolled her eyes at me.
And do you think you feel like a Mr. Fix-It in your relationship?
Let's read that again.
I see what it says. I'm asking you.
I would like you to read it again.
Should men feel like they are the Mr. Fix-Its in a relationship?
Nope. Nope. Men shouldn't feel like they're the Mr. Fix-Its in a relationship. Why? Like, yeah, okay. I can put a TV wall mount on the freaking wall. Yes, I can fix things with my hands. But why do I have to feel like I'm Mr. Fix-It in a relationship? Okay, so you're not going to say anything about it?
Mm-mm. What is the biggest fear you have in your relationship, Stefan?
Damn. I don't really have too
I
much.
was about to say, I can already tell you his answer, y'all.
What?
I don't have any fears.
I don't have too many fears in my relationship. I would say that a fear of a loss of our relationship, but I mean, a fear of loss makes it more so that you're getting ready to lose your relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Do you fear that you're going to lose your relationship?
Not at the current state, no. Do you feel like we're about to lose our relationship?
What is your biggest insecurity?
See? There we go again. Moving right along. You see that?
What is your biggest insecurity?
I would say my biggest insecurity is in a relationship. I mean, I wrote this question, but like, my biggest insecurity is my gut. You know, I would like to lose a lot of my gut. But like in our relationship, I don't have the biggest insecurity in our relationship. Not that I know of. Not that I think I have one. You know.
My biggest fear in our relationship is just simply getting played. I don't desire to be openly cheated on or made a fool out of, where I'm the only person who doesn't recognize that that's going on and everybody else around me is knowing the tea. That's definitely my biggest fear. I feel like I'm too mature to have to be in a relationship with a person who would cheat on me behind my back. I feel like I'm much more approachable these days, and you can just tell me, like, girl, I don't want to do this no more. We should just be friends. And I would much more rather that.
Much more rather?
Yep.
Okay.
My biggest insecurity?
That might be for another episode, unless you want to talk about it now.
I don't know what my biggest insecurity is.
It's fair.
It used to be being cheated on, but I don't think that's my biggest insecurity anymore. So
it's fair.
That's all, folks.
See, no, because it says outro and then it says shout outs.
I think we've done enough talking.
So I mean, let's do the outro and the shout outs.
Thank you guys for tuning in to our podcast.
You gotta say what the name of the podcast.
Second FirstBorn podcast featuring Steph and Devon.
Thank you for tuning in.
Ain't that what I
to
just
this?
said?
No, you didn't.
See how you like to make a fool of me on air?
I'm not making a fool of you. Let's try that again, babe.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Second FirstBorn podcast with Stefan and Cora.
You could have just said Cora and Stefan, but no.
Whatever.
Take some ownership in your podcast, you know?
Right.
Yeah, thank y'all for tuning in.
Outs.
Thank y'all for tuning in to the, Second FirstBorn podcast. It's been real. It's been nice. It's been fun. We've had quite a debate, quite a conversation.
Thanks.
If you guys can see her facial expressions right now, they're quite numerous. She's shaking her head. Shout outs like I always do. Shout out to the haters, to the people that don't think I was gonna make it or make it this far. Shout out to my 4th grade teacher. She said that I would have ended up in jail by now. So yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, big shout out to her.
In 4th grade?
In 4th grade.
She white?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I can't even laugh.
Yeah.
I'd be ready to fight if a woman told my son that he was going to jail in
Especially that
fourth
light
grade.
skin one.
Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to my
It was
kid
kind of
like that.
egregious.
Kinda.
Yeah. I don't know. Shout out to the people who listen to the show. Shout out to the people who don't. Um. Oh, just so y'all know, a website is on the way. I will be featuring a lot of my written works on there, a bunch of my poetry, things of that nature, and hopefully, the Cora Gia will post some of her journals or some stuff on there. But anyways, it's coming soon. Probably within the next week. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, the second FirstBorn podcast
I didn't know that was my segue.
on IG.
So sorry.
Check out our Facebook page.
Second Firstborn podcast.
Hey, there you go. Or you can individually find us. You can, I mean, I don't know if you want to put your personal IG out there for the airways for people to come and follow you, but I'm going to do mine. You can follow me at WavyWill23. I believe it is. It's either WavyWill23 or WavyWill2386. One of the two. Sometimes I forget.
Yeah, mine is Cora in the middle. But it is private, so you have to request me.
Hey, mine's private too, so, whatever. It's WavyWill23 or WavyWill2386, one of the two. You can follow me on Snapchat. It's Poetic Flavor 23. Bam. I was trying to change it, but they didn't allow me to do so, so it is what it is. Do you have any shout outs? The Cora Agia.
Shout out to my old therapist, Cher. I
Yikes.
miss her, man.
Oof. That sounds like she's calling in for a therapy session.
I definitely miss Cher. But that's okay. Somebody in Jacksonville will
Gladly
help a
take your
nigga
money.
out. Because I really need to seek ye in that way.
Seek ye first the kingdom of the therapist.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's my only shout out for today.
Yikes. Well, it's been real. I appreciate you, the Cora Gia, for taking your first stab at hosting the show.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all, that it was so dry. But
Yeah, it was kind of choppy.
That wasn't a good podcast for us to do my first episode.
It was kind of choppy. But, I mean,
all we did was bicker.
That's what causes for great podcasting.
Anyway.
Open-ended debating.
We're still doing it.
Yikes. Get off the air now. Yikes. So I'm being threatened to get off the air now. So guess what I'm going to do? Get off the air. Yeah, I'm going to get off the air. So, peace out, Scouts.